Hey now! What is up, everybody? My name is Mike Brown, aka Review King MB, and this is Smallville Rewind. And this was an episode that I knew when I clicked on it. I knew when I pressed play that it was going to be a sad one, it was going to be an emotional one, but I didn't expect just how emotional I got towards the end of it. I'm talking about the episode called Ryan. And at the very beginning, we see Ryan, young Ryan from the first season, the little boy who had the powers to read people's minds. For some reason, he's at this research facility. He's supposed to be with his aunt, but he's at this facility. He's getting tested on by this doctor who's forcing him to use his brain powers to be able to tell what's on the screen. And I couldn't help but get Stranger Things vibes. I know this came before Stranger Things. I'm not saying it was copying. Of course not. But I'm just saying that I just recently rewatched Stranger Things, so this is very much on my mind. This little kid who has abilities with their brain, and they're being forced to use it at the lab, and even the nosebleeds. I mean, come on, the connection and parallel is definitely there. And the moment when Ryan tricks the doctor into saying, "Oh yeah, your colleague friend over there is stealing some oxycontin," which I was not expecting to hear that word in a Smallville episode, and so the doctor runs off. Ryan sneaks out, and he makes a phone call to the Kents, and this only reminds me further that, man, because of cell phones, we as a society has not done what we all should probably do for our own safety as far as remembering phone numbers. I don't remember anybody's phone number. It's terrible. Back when I was a kid, you used to have to remember phone numbers, but now you don't. And so if I'm in a facility like this, I wouldn't know who the fuck to call. Like, I'd be screwed on so many levels. And so he calls the Kent's house. Clark answers, and he's trying to tell him that he needs to be saved, that they're experimenting on him, blah blah blah. Clark can hardly hear it, and Clark and the Kents, they're trying to figure out where this place is, because I think Ryan said the Summerholt or something, so they can't find it. And Chloe, of course, Chloe, the great Chloe, with her researching skills, she's able to find out that the facility is not wherever they thought it was. It's actually in Metropolis. And so they call the cops. The cops go to the facility. They look around the whole place. They claim they can't find Ryan. The doctor says there's no Ryan here. And so Clark goes there himself and says, "All right, buckos, I know you're full of shit. I know Ryan's here," and they all deny it, everyone there, including the doctor that we saw with Ryan, so we know he's lying. And what's weird is that when Clark sees the floor, like, list, there's one floor that's restricted. Now, I don't know why the cops, when they came to look at the place, that they didn't ask for permission to research or to search the restricted area. Obviously, if they are hiding somebody, that's the area where he would probably be. Now, maybe the doctor was smart enough to hide Ryan at that time, but he clearly didn't do so right now, because Clark was smart enough to go to the restricted floor. He busted open the door, found Ryan sort of monitored up, and there's one guard that comes in and says, "Hey, you're not supposed to be here," and Clark just like Superman punches him across the hall, and he hits his head. So I mean, I don't think the guy died. Just like Batman says, as long as he doesn't die, he could break his neck, break his back, he's alive, he'll live. And Clark takes Ryan and I guess speeds out of there. Clark brings Ryan to Lex Luthor's mansion, which I thought was interesting, because even Clark says, if I brought him home to the farm, my parents would flip. And like, would they flip? I mean, I'm sure they wouldn't be thrilled, but I think at the end of the day, they would understand that if Ryan's in danger, that Clark did the right thing. So as they're there, Ryan's talking to Clark and Lex about the experiments they were doing to him, and I didn't realize that Lex doesn't know about Ryan's powers. So Lex says, "Well, why would they be doing this to you? Like, what is going on?" And Ryan seems like he's hesitant to say that maybe he has powers until Clark says they were just keeping him for observation. Don't worry about it, Lex. And even Lex is like, "What the fuck?" You're Lex breaks it down to Clark, saying, "You broke this kid out of this facility. It's kidnapping because he's a kid, and you brought him to my mansion, so now I'm involved. The police will have our asses. What the fuck?" He didn't say this part, or really, what the fuck? But he did make Clark realize that this is fucked up. And it's even more messed up that Clark is not trusting Lex still, after everything. And I'm not saying that Lex 100% is that there's never moments where he lies to Clark. Obviously, there are moments when he lies to Clark. There are moments when he keeps stuff from Clark. For sure. But Clark is keeping stuff from him too. So for Clark to still kind of be wary, even though Clark brought Ryan there. And then there's a moment when Clark goes back home and the sheriff and the doctor from the facility is there, and they're like, "Where's Ryan? I know you took him." And I'm sitting here going, "Wait, what?" Because obviously, yes, we knew that Ryan was at the facility, but the cops went to the facility. This doctor claimed that Ryan wasn't there. This doctor claimed that there is no patients, that there is no Ryan, that there's nobody here. The cops went there to search for them, and the doctor lied and hid Ryan. Why is nobody going after the doctor? Or why is nobody questioning the doctor and saying, "Well, why did you tell us that he wasn't there? Why did you lie, doctor?" Nobody, not one person, even the Kents, didn't question that and say, "Well, I thought you said that he wasn't there." This was frustrating the fuck out of me because obviously the intentions of this scene was to make Clark look like, "Oh shit, maybe he fucked up." Because the doctor says, "If you don't bring Ryan here by the morning, then we're going to have all of this wrath come down on you and your family, and you're going to be taken away on kidnapping charges and blah, 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 blah." It's supposed to put pressure on Clark. Like, I get that setup, but I don't understand why the sheriff's just sitting there with his thumb up his ass and he's not saying, "Well, wait a minute, hold on. What's going on here with this Ryan kid? How did he just appear out of nowhere? And why didn't the Kents address this as well?" So the next morning, you see that Ryan is there, and the doctor shows up with the sheriff, and he's supposed to hand Ryan over to the doctor. And Ryan is telling them, "I don't want to go with him. Please, don't force me to go with him." And Jonathan says, "All right, wait a minute. You can clearly tell that Ryan does not want to go with you. What's the deal here?" And the doctor says, "Well, I'm his legal guardian. I have the papers to prove it, so he has to come with me." And the sheriff just goes, "Well, I'm sorry, Kent, but that is true." And I'm like, "What? You're telling me that this kid is claiming to be abused, or he's claiming that he doesn't want to go there for X, Y, and Z reasons, and the sheriff doesn't question that? He doesn't look into that?" I know. I know I'm probably thinking about this in too much of a realistic, real world way, and this episode wasn't interested, I guess, in addressing all of that. And so when the doctor says, "So I have to take him, or Clark is going to get arrested," Lex Luthor pulls up. Thank God for Lex Luthor. He drives up in his expensive car. I don't know cars, so I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a Porsche, or I don't know if it's a... I don't know. But it's a really nice looking car. And Lex drives up and he says, "I have a restraining order against this guy, so he has to leave, at least for the time being. He has to leave Ryan alone." And also, because the guy says, "Hey, you can't do that. I'll sue." And Lex goes, "Well, I already have my countersuit prepared." Lex is 10 steps ahead of this guy. Thank God for Lex. Yes, Clark. Remember Lex, the guy that you don't trust to tell about your secret or Ryan's secret. Lex just pulled this shit out of his ass with his money, his resources, his lawyers. Give Lex some respect. You know, it's frustrating rewatching these earlier episodes to see just how good of a guy, or at least how much Lex was trying to be a good of a guy. And maybe you could argue that he is trying and he's not really deep down. I don't know. But this episode especially, I felt bad for Lex because it looked like he came through so many times. They have a welcome home sort of party at the Talon for Ryan, so they're there. I didn't mention how Ryan's aunt, who took him in the last season, it's kind of messed up. Like, obviously, she didn't know what was happening to Ryan or what was going to happen to Ryan, because even Ryan says it's not her fault. She just fell behind on the bills and the medical expenses for whatever was happening with his head. She couldn't deal with it, so when this doctor showed up, she just sort of gave Ryan to the doctor. I'm like, ain't that about a bitch? And this bitch just disappears, so we don't know where this aunt is. And Lana has the moment where she kisses him on the cheek, and I'm like, God damn, Ryan, I am so jealous of you right now. Okay, Lana, yes, I know. Lana, she has an effect on people, for sure. And I liked when Ryan was sort of reading, like he read Pete's mind and he told Clark that, like, oh my God, Pete knows your secret. It's okay. I told him. But I liked the moment where he said, well, do you know that Pete's really stressed out about it? Like he's really nervous about accidentally slipping up and letting that secret get out there. And they didn't really address it after that, but it was quick. I liked it. Also, Ryan picked up that Lana was moving or going to leave Metropolis. It makes me wonder, is Ryan reading the minds of people, like, of what they're thinking right there on the spot? Or can he, like, somehow read their mind and, like, access a bunch of different thoughts? And he just focuses on the thought that, like, is most interesting to him? Because, yeah, he mentioned Lana. And then they cut away to the barn, and Lana is talking to Clark. And I like the fact that even though Clark knows through Ryan that Lana might be moving, he doesn't just hit her with the whole, like, so are you moving? Like, he actually tries to say, hey, I know things are weird between us, but you can talk to me, you can tell me everything. He tries to find a way to get Lana to tell him herself, which only makes it frustrating that Clark doesn't tell Lana anything. But he tries to make Lana tell him about this. She does tell him about how her Aunt Nell wants to move to Metropolis with her new boyfriend, and so that means Lana has to leave and leave Smallville, and she doesn't want to, and so it becomes a whole thing. I like the moment when Clark tells her, don't go. Because at first you think he means don't leave the barn, which would have been nice as well, because Clark doesn't really say his feelings on that level to Lana, really, right? Like, if he doesn't want her to go, he doesn't say that. He just lets her walk away looking sad because he doesn't want her to go. But in this case, he's talking about don't leave Smallville, you know? And he's like, if you don't want to go, you shouldn't be forced to. Really, it's him saying, please don't leave me, Lana, please. Please. And so we actually get a scene where Lana is trying to look up being emancipated. She's trying to emancipate herself, but she finds out it's like a long process, could take over a year. And then Chloe talks to her about it, and Chloe actually offers for her to move in with her. Wow, that's huge. And it's super nice of Chloe. But, like, I don't really remember them living together. Like, I don't remember that being a thing. Like, I'm curious to see what comes of that, what that's like. Because, you know, this isn't college roommates. Like, this is, like, she's living in her house with her and her father. That should be very interesting. So, we see that Ryan is talking to Lex, and they're talking about the comic books and this and that. And then Ryan starts having a nosebleed, and then he passes out. So he wakes up in the hospital, and they're talking about how they're trying to figure out what's wrong with him. I liked when Ryan was like, it's okay, I already read the doctor's mind. I have a tumor, and I'm going to die, you know? Like, this kid, Ryan, I need to look up if he's been in anything else since Smallville, because at this young age, he's a really good actor. The tears coming out was making me emotional, for sure. and also the idea of Clark almost looking helpless, like he obviously wants to help him, but he doesn't really know how to do it. And then you see that Lex finds out about this doctor that is trying to do some experimental procedure about tumors. It's not like official or 100%, but it's something, right? And it's funny because Lex tells Clark that, like, hey, I think Ryan, because Lex's conversation with Ryan was giving himself up. He was basically, like, he was reading Lex's mind and answering all of Lex's questions or finishing his thoughts. Like, obviously, Lex is going to figure this out, right? I know you're young, but this is how people became aware, or how this doctor became aware of your condition, because you just so openly read everyone's minds and tell them about it. But he's a kid. So Lex is saying, I think he can read people's minds. And Clark's like, do you really care about Ryan, or do you just want to use him for your own deeds? I'm like, God damn, Clark, that's a huge presumption. Like, huh? Even Lex is like, I just spent all of those hours looking for that doctor, finding that doctor, telling you about that doctor. What the hell do you think? Yeah, like, give him some credit, Clark. Like, it's just, I'm way too sensitive for Lex in this episode for whatever reason. And then we get this great sequence of Clark super speeding all the way to whatever other state or whatever that the doctor is at. The doctor's about to board a plane to go away on a vacation or something for 6 weeks. So Clark's trying to stop him. Great sequence, great super speed sequence of just him going through, and he goes to the airport. The security is trying to stop him, and he waves down the plane. And the guy comes out, and he shows the doctor Ryan's tumor brain scans, and he's begging for the doctor to help him. This is like the biggest moment that I remember from watching this episode the first time, was Clark running to the airport, flagging down the doctor. All that stuff is what I remembered the most from this. And then there's a quick scene of Lex talking to Ryan, talking more about that comic book. And Ryan, like, the comic book is about how the hero's friend ends up turning on him and turning evil, obviously foreshadowing Clark and Lex. And Ryan, almost as if he senses that, like, this is Lex's fate. This is why I wonder, is he, not that he can tell the future, but, like, is he accessing a bunch of different thoughts that Lex is having? Because he tells Lex, like, hey, remember that, like, you're Clark's friend and that you're a good person. Like, he can tell Clark or Lex is gonna turn, and he's trying to warn Lex about that. Like, remember being a good person. And then Ryan's in surgery, and Lana has a moment where she tells Clark about Chloe and everything. And then when they look over and Martha and Jonathan come out, and Annette O'Toole as Martha does such a tremendous job of, she's in tears, she's crying. I don't even think she gets the words out that the surgery wasn't a success, that Ryan isn't saved. Like, we don't even hear her say that. It's just her in tears. That got me emotional. That got me to tear up. Even though I started this episode and I knew this was a sad one, I knew I would probably get sad by the end of it. I wasn't expecting to actually have tears come out of my eyes until Martha came out and had that reaction. Clark goes in there, he's talking to Ryan, and Ryan just sort of accepting his fate and just whatever. And the episode ends with Clark bringing Ryan out to, like, a hot air balloon, which always scared me to death, terrified me. I'd never want to do this ever. But hey, the kid's dying. So Clark does this for him. It's nice because Ryan talked about how this would make him feel like he's flying. And so this was a nice way to end the episode, but ultimately a really sad fucking episode, especially the final shot of Clark in the hospital, like the hallway, looking back at the empty room, just like, man, this was brutal. And also, this was brutal because I'm pretty sure they said that the tumor in Ryan's brain formed and became so much bigger and basically killed him because of the experiments that that doctor was doing to him. So basically, it didn't have to happen. That's what pisses me off about that the most. Also, this Ryan kid, like the character, was very sweet, very nice, did not deserve this fate. I like that he says to Clark, hey, you're going to become an important person, a good person. You're going to save people. Promise me you won't give up. Because he can probably tell that Clark, he can't read Clark's mind. I remember that before. But he can probably tell that Clark is just feeling really down and bad about himself. So I just like that, but man, was I sad. I was. I was really sad during this. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of the episode Ryan? Do you like it? Were you sad as well? Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later.